what is up guys? So today we're going to do another installation video. I've got a set of the Viking Crusader shocks now. They are adjustable, rebound as well as compression. Huge shout out to BMR Suspension for helping me out with the shock mounts as well as the shocks. I've also got a set of differential bushings that we're going to be putting in, and we've got some sleeves for the rear cradle. I already have their cradle lockout kit on the car. The sleeves help, and you can see here where the bolt goes in. This is all of the extra give and clearance that the bolts typically have while sitting inside the cradle. So if you look, like I can say, you've got, you know, half an inch there or so that's just extra give that those bolts have for slop in your cradle, and that definitely hurts performance at the drag strip. It gives the car a lot of chance for the cradle to kind of move around a little bit. So that's definitely going to straighten everything out. We're going to get these shocks put on. We're going to get the bushings put in. We're going to see if maybe one day we can make this car fast. Alright, first things first, got the car jacked up, jack stands underneath both sides. Next we're going to take the wheel and tire off to give myself a little bit more room to work underneath the car and give us access to the stock shocks. So I'm probably not going to work on the shocks first, we're probably going to do the cradle and the diff bushings, but like I said, getting the wheel and tire off to begin with gives you a little bit more room underneath the car to work with. Alright, so we went to the track last night and we did heat up the tires a little bit. When you heat up the tires, it causes these studs to expand, and it looks like even though I torqued these down properly before we went to the track, they've expanded now, and yeah, they're not coming off. So it looks like I gotta run to the store and buy a breaker bar because the last one I bought from Harbor Freight snapped. Alright, so we went down to O'Reilly's and they had the big boy breaker bar. We got a 24-inch, so this should work. Alright, so with the wheel and tire off, we can access the stock shock now, and let's get to work. Alright, so as we get into actually pulling apart the car now, you're going to need 7 different sockets. So you're going to need a 13, a 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, and 22. And those are going to be for getting not only the shocks off here, but also for lowering the cradle so that we can access the differential bushings that you can kind of see at the top right up there. Those are what we're going to be replacing with poly rather than the rubber that gives a lot of flex that's in there right now. Alright guys, so we're going to start off by loosening the rear 2 cradle bolts here. So that's going to be the big blue one there. Once I loosen those, I'm not going to remove them fully. You just got to loosen them so that you can drop it down a little bit because you don't want to pull the whole cradle out. It's a bitch to put back in. So I gotta loosen those, and then we're gonna fully pull out the front 2 cradle bolts here so that we can access all of the pretty little bushings that are up here. So let's get started on that. Now, I did want to point out, as you can see there now, that the diff is supported. You want to do that in case you back out the rear bolts too far and the diff wants to drop. So definitely support the diff. I have the car jacked up so high that the jack won't reach it alone, so I did put a block of wood underneath it. It's not going to see a lot of pressure, but you definitely want to support that so that the whole cradle doesn't come falling out when you take these 4 bolts out. I'm gonna go over to the other side, loosen the other 2, and then we'll drop the cradle down a little bit. All right, so I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see inside of here, but you can kind of see that it's off center a little bit. That's because of the last time I pulled the diff to put on the lockout kit here, and I didn't put the sleeves in, so when you realigned it, it realigned kind of backwards, I'd say like 1/4 of an inch or so. So I'm definitely going to straighten that back out as we put the bushing sleeves and everything in here today. All right, so I'm gonna be honest here. I've spent probably an hour trying to get that front differential bolt out, and I can't. You don't get enough leverage on the ground with jack and jack stands, so the diff bushings are gonna have to wait until I take the car to a shop. So I'm gonna take the cradle bushings now, and we're gonna put the cradle bushings in because they're a little bit simpler, and then we'll get on to doing the shocks and the shock mounts. But the differential bushings on the ground on jack and jack stands just are not gonna happen. Alright guys, so like I said in the previous clip, the differential bushings are definitely not going to happen. There's no way for me to get to them on the ground like this. There's just not enough clearance. So we're going to put the cradle lockout bushings in. We've got a thing of energy suspension lubricant here, which should help slide them in a little bit because they do fit pretty tight when going in there. So let's open this up here. Some little grease along the sides of it. Shouldn't need a whole lot, but you are going to need just enough to help you kind of slide it up in there. Spread the grease around a little bit, and then we should just be able to slide these puppies up in. Oh yeah, slides right up in there, and that'll sit all the way up because your lockout has a little bit of a nipple on here that's going to help hold it there, but that's going to slide all the way in. That one's good on this side. Do the one on the other side, and you're just going to repeat the steps on that opposite side over there. So I'm actually going to move to the back of this side over here and fully pull out this bolt that we loosened earlier and slide this bushing in there. Alright guys, so like I said, this bolt right here actually supports the rear of the diff. So I'm going to pull this bolt all the way out because we do have the diff supported by the jack over there. I'm going to take and grease up the bushing just like we did on the other side. This one's kind of nice. You don't have to get on your back and everything for it. The biggest thing with putting these bushings in now is it straightens the alignment of the rear, so I'm actually going to have to work to get my rear realigned. All right. I lied. You do have to get on your back. All right, looks like we're gonna have to give the tool that they give us a try. I have to provide you with this really fucking long bolt. It's got a 22 millimeter on the end of it, and this fits the same size as the stock differential bolt does, or the stock cradle bolt does. So you basically take and slide the bushing over this, then screw this in, and it helps force the bushing into its position because this one back here is really, really tight. Alright guys, so I started to straighten the cradle back out. There is no cradle bushing in the rear here. It's right here, and I'm going to show you why. So this is the long bolt that they give you to help assist putting this bushing in, because it doesn't really fit in the sleeve back there. Well, there's, I don't know, 10, 15 threads on there. Not enough threading to help assist it up. It only pushes it to about here. Then it won't go in the rest of the way. And the stock bolt isn't long enough to assist it the rest of the way in. So the bushing won't go in. So I tried to pull it out, and the bolt's too long, and it hit the exhaust here. So I had to take my exhaust off to be able to get this bolt back out. And at that point I said, fuck it. And I'm going to wait until I can drop the cradle to put these two in. You can actually see where it tore the bushing up trying to shove it in. It's like it plain doesn't fit. It's way too tight. And that was with grease and everything, so I don't know. But like I said, I got the diff and the cradle kind of straightened back out there. I'm going to bolt it the rest of the way back up. We're going to move on to the Vikings and the shock mounts there, and I'm going to call it a day. It's just not worth the hassle trying to put the diff bushings in as well as the cradle bushings here. It's just not worth it. I'm going to have to drop the cradle and the diff in order to do that, and I'll probably do that when I change gears. So for right now, like I said, I'm going to get everything here tightened back up and torque down. It's 129 foot-pounds for the bolts there. And then we're going to move on to the Vikings and the shock mounts. All right, guys, so for the removal of the two top shock mounts, here you're going to need an 18 millimeter. Fits on perfectly. And then you've also got two bolts down here at the bottom. You can see the shock itself in. Those are going to be 15s to get the stock ones out. But in total, you're going to need a 14, 15, 16, 17, and an 18 millimeter because of the new bolts and nuts that are provided with the Vikings and the BMR mount and shock. So I'm going to take these off now. All right, like I said before, 18 millimeter. I'm gonna take my 14 millimeter to the bottom bolt here. Oh, not gonna be a 14, 15 millimeter? 15 millimeter to the bottom bolt. That is the stock removed. I'm gonna pull the cap off here and I should be able to get to, yeah, so I'm gonna take this top bolt off because I want this boot and the dampening bushing there for the Vikings. So what size is this? We're gonna get lucky, it is, it's a 15. And with an impact that comes off really easily. So pull the stock mount off, and then we're going to pull the stock bushing. Looks like there's a washer on the end of it. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get off. So, as an addendum to my previous statement, you do not need the factory bump stops on the Vikings. And without the factory bump stops, the dust cover or dust boot does not fit. So, throw that shit away. So we're gonna install these on the car now. The Vikings differ slightly from the stock shock here. If you look, the Viking just has a straight through pattern, whereas the stock shock actually has threads in the bottom of the mount there. The Vikings give you a nut and bolt style, so it's gonna be a through bolt with a washer and then a nylon nut on the end in order to secure those to the bottom of the vehicle. So I'm going to reattach this to the mount now, and then we're going to get these put on the car. So that is the shock mount in. Now I have to get the bottom of the shock here bolted up. In order to do that, it looks like you definitely have to push up on this side over here. So I'm gonna go get the jack and compress the spring a little bit so that we can get the shock fully seated there. So I believe both of these are 14s now. So I'm gonna find my 14s and I'm gonna crank these down. Viking does not give you torque specs for these. So I'm gonna torque them down to 49 foot-pounds, which matches some of the other smaller bolts on the car in similar areas. Alrighty, so that is the Vikings and the shock mounts in on this side. I'm gonna move around to the other side and do those as well. Then I'll throw the wheel and tire back on and we can see how it looks. As you can see down here at the bottom is where the adjustability is. It's not ideal locations, honestly, but it is what it is. This is compression, this is rebound, and you can adjust that to change the dampening settings of the shocks here. But that's the Viking Performance Crusader shocks and the BMR Performance, or BMR Suspension shock mounts there. And that's about it, guys. Alright guys, so this video did not turn out how I wanted it to turn out. I really wanted to get all of that shit accomplished and have all the suspension parts on the car. Not possible. It's not possible. With the car on the ground, the differential bushings, as well as the cradle lockout bushings, just aren't possible. And personally, I believe that the cradle lockout bushings don't fit properly. I don't think the rear ones are machined right. I think that maybe I got 2 sets for the front, which seem to slide in perfectly. I don't know. I am talking with BMR about it right now, and I am getting them to update the instruction manual as well, so that all of the socket sizes fit right. So today wasn't really about them. It was about me. It was about me not having, proper equipment to get all of this stuff put in. So if I had a lift and I could remove the full cradle and differential, probably would have been a little bit easier. So as far as the differential bushings and the cradle lockout bushings go, either take it to a friend's shop that has a lift and get it done, or pay someone else to do it. But don't try and do it on the floor with jack and jack stands. It's just going to irritate you and you're going to have a bad time. The Viking shocks and the shock mounts, those are cake. This side over here took me like 15 minutes once I had the shock attached to the shock mount, which took another 5 minutes to attach and torque everything down properly. So the Vikings and the shock mounts, 100% recommend. They look awesome. I already know they're going to perform better. I had them on my 2013, and no one's ever complained removing stock shocks and replacing them with a dual adjustable. Guarantee you that. So like I said, that's going to be it for today. I wish I had a different outcome on this, but I don't. So stay tuned until next time. Follow me on Instagram. Subscribe to me on here. I'm going to start pumping out some content. It's what I need to do. It's what I enjoy doing. And we're going to go hit the track, and we're going to see if we can get some 10s. All right, just because I know someone's going to ask if you can see the shocks or anything. You kind of can a little. You can see the Viking peeking out there. And like if I get up close, I can kind of zoom in there and you can see it says Viking. The shock mount's completely invisible. And they don't change the ride height or anything. It's literally just a shock. So the only difference you'll feel is like in ride quality, which I'm gonna go test out here soon, hoping it's gonna be pretty immense. But I did want to show you guys that because I knew someone was gonna comment if I didn't as to what it looked like. So now that's the end of the video. Like I said, I apologize for it not being the video that I wanted it to be and getting all of the installations done that I wanted to. But again, I'm learning as I go with this.